Welcome back to PROtalks. I'm Nate Halubka within the North Carolina Pandemic Recovery Office. So today we're going to talk with NEUs, and if you've gotten to this phase, you've done a really good job. That means that you're done with the pre-contracting and you're about to move into the grant agreement phase. So in this video, what we're going to go through are some of the basics that are a part of that. First up, our office would like you to look at these as investments within your community. You have a lot more time to spend these funds than you did with the Corona Relief Funds. So look at this as ways that you can help your community for years to come. Second up, so while the pre-contracting documents that you sent in was the declaration that you wanted the funds, you don't need to do anything else to actually declare that you want the funds, but you do have to go through the grant making procedure, which we're about to send you paperwork on to formally accept the funds. So you'll see those are going to be coming here shortly, and that's where we had asked for signature lines. So you have to move through that before we can actually send out the funds. Now, this is an important part. The NEU agreement is actually between the United States Treasury and your municipality, which is a little bit different than the Corona Relief Funds. So just remember that your grant agreement is between the U.S. Treasury, the federal government, and your municipality. All right, so the next thing is, within the pre-contracting data, we had asked for some of your budget data. Now, the U.S. Treasury has said that you're going to have some pretty basic reporting stuff that'll have to go up. Now, one of those things is going to come at the end of October. So October the 31st, you're going to have to go through and provide some preliminary reporting to the U.S. Treasury, and one of those things is to provide budgetary evidence of that top line budget to the U.S. Treasury. All right, next thing, when are you going to get your money? That's a question that our office has been asked a number of times. Our aim is to get the funds out in the order that we had received the pre-contracting information. So basically, first in, first out. If you submitted your information pretty early on, so long as there weren't any hangups, you'll be one of the first to get it. If it took you a little bit longer to actually go through the process, don't worry, you're still getting your funds. It'll just be that you'll get those a little bit later on. Now, our office is aiming to get all the funds out the door by the end of the month. There may still be some things that delay that and push it back a little bit later than that, but that's at least the goal that we're moving forward with. All right, to move up. So NEUs, whenever you receive your grant agreement, you're going to see that there's actually two places on there to sign. There's two entities that are going to sign it. One is your entity needs to sign it as the recipient. Now, the other part, and we're anticipating that we're going to get questions for that, is where the state will collect these after the municipalities have signed them and forward them on to the U.S. Treasury. So you're going to see a second box on there that asks for the U.S. Treasury Secretary. Do not worry about that right now. Go ahead and send things back with just your municipality's information, and our office will take care of the signatures on the U.S. Treasury side. Now, to that point, the other thing is the Treasury has indicated that once you sign your side of the agreement, you'll be cleared to actually spend the funds. Now, the Treasury has not given us an indication about when you would receive a signed copy from the U.S. Treasury. So essentially, whenever you signed your information for your municipality and send it in, you're good to go. All right, so another thing is, these are not reimbursement type funds. Just to let you know, you're going to receive half of your funds up front. The second half, the U.S. Treasury has said that we're not allowed to send out any sooner than 1 year from the date of that first tranche going out. So your total allotment is going to be broken in half. You're going to receive one up front here pretty soon. The other one will happen 1 year from now, essentially, or give or take 1 year from now. All right. The next thing is the U.S. Treasury has told NCPRO and the state to make sure that local governments have a unique identification number. And you'll see this on your grant agreement paperwork. Now, you may see other numbers on here, but this one in particular is vital. So the one that you want to look at is the one that starts with NC, and then there's a 4-digit number that runs after that. That is your particular municipality's identification number on there. So we have it in the example here. It'll be just like NC, and then for this fictitious town, it's 9999. But your particular one will have NC and then a 4-digit number following it. That is the one that you'll need to identify with and talk with anytime that you're going to correspond with the Treasury. Use that number because they'll identify you by it. All right, so that's talking about some things before you start to get your funds. Let's talk about some things once you actually get your funds. All right, so first up, we've heard this a lot across the state, and we want to make sure that it's cleared up. these funds are not a blank check. All right. Now, there's the U.S. Treasury is saying that you'll have broad latitude, but they're not saying that you can go out and spend it on anything and everything that you want. There are particular guidelines that have to be followed to be able to use these. All right. And it's actually the municipality's duty to make sure that they're following the U.S. Treasury to follow these guidelines. All right, next up, when can you actually use the funds? Now, the good thing is the cover period is actually March 3rd, which is already passed of 2021, and goes through the end of 2024. All right, so you have quite a few years to actually spend the funds. Now, the question does come up because there's some capital allowances within this. What happens if you're not quite done, but you're under contract to do that? So the U.S. Treasury has said that so long as the funds are encumbered by the end of 2024, then you actually have until the end of 2026 to complete your work and document and send that in. That's actually a pretty long time period for those. All right, now the other question is, when we actually have quite a few small towns that are receiving these funds, what if we don't have the capacity to administer them? All right, so the good thing is you can actually use some of these funds to help administer the funds. So if you need to take on some additional staff that are going to be completely dealing with this work, then some of those funds can actually go and support that. All right, to continue on. The other thing is you're not in this alone. You can actually choose, it's within your power as a municipality to take these funds and forward them on to either another municipality or a county. But the core part is here that the municipality still remains the prime recipient. So all that liability, even if you choose to forward it on, still resides with with you as the municipality since you received the funds. Next up. We're encouraging collaboration. All right, we think that there's going to be chances for you to take the funds that you have and leverage them with funds that the state is receiving. And we're also encouraging you, if you know that you have a capacity shortage, look out for other stakeholders in your area that are going to be able to help move you forward and form partnerships with them. All right, so just to kind of wrap things up, we have a couple things that are either moving towards the end of whenever you're going to be at the grant making process, or just a couple things that are coming up in the next few days. First up, NEUs will have to, I've already said this, NEUs will have to report to the U.S. Treasury annually. All right, you will report to the Treasury, not to the not to NCPRO. Now we're still waiting from the U.S. Treasury to tell us what that's going to look like. Okay, but your reports will go to the U.S. Treasury annually. Second, the liability of misuse of funds resides within your municipality. So again, you might be pressured to just go out and spend the money on anything and everything that you want. But if you go that route and you use it on areas that aren't allowed, the municipality will be the ones that have to pay the funds back. All right. The other thing is, and we're getting this question a lot, are these funds subject to an audit? And the answer is yes, they're subject to a federal audit. So keep that in mind. And that's why we're trying to walk you through the stages of making sure that you can keep those funds separate and account for them as you're going through it. Now, those are things that could be a little bit scary, but I want you to point to the very last thing that we're going to come to. You are not in this alone. NCPRO and other entities, other stakeholders across the state are working together to make sure that local governments know how to use the funds, know that there's a support structure there that is helping you through these stages with the investment of these funds. All right. So specifically, these stakeholders are planning right now to have multiple regional learning collaboration sessions. And really that's a big way of saying we're going to work through the process and we're going to work to educate you on the use of the funds and how we get through this. And it's not just going to be NCPRO. We're partnering with other entities like the School of Government, the League of Municipalities, the Association of County Commissioners, the COG, the Rule Center. All of us are working behind the scenes right now to make sure that whenever you start to receive your funds, you're well informed on how to use them. Now, obviously, it's a long process, and we're here to help you out. So if you have any questions, by all means, follow the information at the bottom of this slide, and we'll be glad to help you out with any other further information. For NCPRO, this is Nate Halubka, and thank you for joining us. Bye.